I'm in the same place that I was about 2 weeks ago when there were no leaves here, but the temperature was much warmer that day. So today is a cool day. Imagine that. So Ontario weather is like that. It could be nice and it could be well into spring, or we are in the end of May, and it's now much cooler than when it was that day when I was there when there were no leaves. So now it's beautiful, lush and green, and I'm here in the same place with the playground here. And talking about playgrounds, playground is a place, by the time you're 14, I guess between 8 and 14, you learn some rules of engagement. So some of the basic foundational rules about how we relate to each other. For instance, in terms of cooperating with somebody, being respectful to each other, not being selfish, not threatening somebody when you cannot go through with it. So that's one of the foundational rules that I would say I learned by the time I was 14, not to threaten anybody if you cannot go through with it. So that requires also self-awareness and also what I can do and what I cannot do, and also to understand your adversary. So I may be playing a sport. I used to play rugby and soccer and cricket, and especially rugby and soccer. There's a tendency for that sort of aggression and violence to come into play too, right? So you push each other. But to realize that there is also a decorum, a certain set of rules that we have to play by. So those rules are, again, as I said, don't make any threats that you cannot go through with. And that is about the use of power, right? But the sad thing is, when you look around the world today, whether it's mostly in politics, but in some organizations too, and as parents too, we do make threats that we cannot come through with. And that then diminishes our sense of agency, that diminishes our reputation, diminishes our power. Because when you cannot come through with threat, we are almost negotiating against ourselves, and that leaves us much weaker. Whether it's a nation, whether it's a corporation, whether it's a family, that's an important rule for us to follow. So I was introduced to the book Sun Tzu, I guess when I was about in my late teens, and I really enjoyed reading that book. So Sun Tzu's whole premise was know yourself, know the others, but also work to harmonize rather than create violence. And if you have to be violent, making sure that you're in a position to win. So he was all about strategies of understanding ourselves and understanding the adversary. But at the same time, how do we find common ground? And that was his theme. And much later in life, in my 40s, I read Machiavelli. There were lots of similarities between Machiavelli and Sun Tzu in terms of we have to be pragmatic and realistic, not be idealistic in any situation that we face. However, Machiavelli was all about power, take power at any cost, and remain in power, and also have control. And that also meant some draconian measures too. So how do we find the middle ground between these? And I call that the power balance. And I really think young people have to be taught these lessons early on. And my lessons came as a parent too, where I tripped on myself too by, say, threatening to punish a child by knowing that I will not be able to come through with it and losing my power along. So I learned those lessons also at a practical real life situations too. Even in my own businesses, I've learned those lessons. But I would say by the time you're between 40 and 50, those lessons should be hardwired in us. So most people who are leading this world today are in that age range, and I'm really sorry to see that many of them do not follow these simple basic tenets of leadership and using power. So until next time, be well, be happy.